The morning sun cast long shadows across the supermarket parking lot as Sarah Mitchell struggled with her grocery bags. Her 6-year-old daughter Emma clung to her jacket, tired from their early morning shopping trip. Sarah's hand trembled slightly as she fumbled with her car keys, trying to balance 3 heavy bags while keeping Emma close. The weight of single motherhood pressed down on her shoulders like the humid summer air that hung thick around them. She had been up since 5 that morning, preparing breakfast and packing Emma's lunch before heading to her shift at the diner. The grocery run was squeezed into her lunch break, a carefully choreographed dance of time management that left no room for error. Her beat-up sedan sat in the far corner of the lot, where she always parked it to avoid door dings she couldn't afford to repair. Every penny counted when you were raising a child alone. As Sarah approached her car, a sleek black Mercedes pulled into the spot beside hers with aggressive speed. The driver's door swung open, and out stepped Marcus Caldwell, a man whose expensive suit couldn't hide the ugliness that lived beneath his polished exterior. His phone was pressed against his ear, and he was barking orders at someone on the other end with a kind of entitlement that came from never having to struggle for anything. Sarah tried to load her groceries quickly, aware that Emma was getting fussy. One of the bags slipped from her grasp, and cans of soup rolled across the pavement. Emma bent down to help her mother, her small hands reaching for the scattered items. Marcus ended his call and watched them with cold eyes, making no move to assist. "Excuse me," Sarah said softly, realizing one of the cans had rolled near Marcus's feet. "Could you please hand me that?" Marcus looked down at the can, then back at Sarah with undisguised contempt. His lip curled into a sneer that made Sarah's stomach turn. "Pick it up yourself," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. "I don't do manual labor. Maybe if you manage your life better, you wouldn't be scrambling around parking lots like some desperate charity case." The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. Emma looked up at her mother, confused by the man's cruelty. Sarah felt heat rise to her cheeks, a mixture of shame and anger that made her throat tight. She had done nothing to deserve this treatment except exist in this man's line of sight while being visibly poor and exhausted. "I'm just asking for help," Sarah replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not asking for much." Marcus laughed, a harsh sound that echoed across the parking lot. "You people always want something for nothing. Let me guess, single mother? Bad choices? That's not my problem. Stay out of my way and teach your kid some dignity while you're at it." Sarah felt tears prick at her eyes but refused to let them fall. She wouldn't give this man the satisfaction. She bent down to retrieve the can herself, her hands shaking with humiliation. Emma wrapped her arms around her mother's leg, sensing her distress. The parking lot suddenly felt enormous and empty, a stage for her public degradation. What neither Sarah nor Marcus noticed was the man standing 3 cars away, loading his own groceries into a modest rental vehicle. Jason Statham had been in town for a film shoot, enjoying a rare moment of anonymity in the early morning hours. He wore a simple baseball cap and sunglasses, just another shopper grabbing supplies. But he had heard every word of the exchange, and something in his jaw tightened as he watched the scene unfold. Jason had grown up with a single mother himself. He knew the weight of judgment, the sting of unearned contempt, the way society looked down on women who dared to raise children alone. His own mother had worked 3 jobs to keep him fed and clothed, and he had never forgotten the sacrifices she made or the cruelty she endured from people who thought themselves superior. He closed his trunk quietly and began walking toward them, his stride purposeful and controlled. Jason Statham approached with the calm precision of someone who had faced down much worse than a parking lot bully. His footsteps were measured and deliberate, each one bringing him closer to the unfolding scene. Marcus had already turned his back on Sarah, dismissing her entirely as he checked his reflection in his car's tinted window, smoothing down his tie with the self-satisfaction of someone who believed the world existed to save him. "Is there a problem here?" Jason's voice cut through the tension like a blade, quiet but impossible to ignore. Marcus toned, irritation flickering across his features before he fully registered who was speaking. His expression shifted from annoyance to recognition to something that resembled excitement. "Wait, are you Jason Statham? The actor? Oh man, I love your movies. The Transporter series is incredible." Jason didn't smile. His expression remained neutral, almost cold. "I asked you a question. Is there a problem here?" Marcus's enthusiasm faltered. No problem at all. Just dealing with a little situation. Nothing that concerns you. Really? Hey, could I get a photo? My buddies would never believe this. Jason took another step forward, closing the distance between them. He stood at eye level with Marcus, and though he wasn't physically imposing through sheer size, there was something in his presence that made Marcus take an involuntary step backward. It was the confidence of someone who had nothing to prove and everything to protect when it mattered. "I saw what happened," Jason said, his voice still quiet but edged with steel. "I heard what you said to this woman. You think that's acceptable behavior? You think you can talk to another human being like that?" Marcus's face flushed red. "Look, I don't know what you think you saw, but I was just having a bad day. It's really none of your business, man. I'm a huge fan, but you're overstepping here." Sarah stood frozen, watching the surreal scene unfold. Emma had moved behind her mother's legs, peering out at the famous actor who had materialized like some kind of guardian angel. Sarah wanted to say something, to thank him, to tell him it was okay and she could handle it, but words failed her. The humiliation still burned in her chest, and now she felt the added weight of being the cause of a confrontation. Jason never took his eyes off Marcus. "You're wrong. When I see someone disrespecting another person, especially when that person is just trying to live their life and take care of their child, it becomes my business. It becomes everyone's business. That's how decent people operate." Marcus's bravado was crumbling, but pride made him defensive. "She asked me to pick up her mess. I don't have to do anything for anyone. This is a free country, and I don't owe strangers my time or energy. Maybe if she organized herself better, she wouldn't need handout from people in parking lots." The words hung in the air like poison. Jason's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the atmosphere around him. When he spoke again, his voice carried a weight of genuine anger controlled by iron discipline. "Let me tell you something about my mother," Jason said. "She raised me alone. She worked cleaning offices at night, waitressing during the day, and taking and sewing on weekends. I watched her break her back to give me opportunities she never had. And I watched people like you treat her like garbage because she didn't have money or a man standing next to her. People who thought their bank accounts made them better human beings." Marcus shifted uncomfortably, his eyes darting around the parking lot as if looking for an escape route or hoping someone would interrupt this uncomfortable lecture. A few other shoppers had paused their loading to watch from a distance, sensing drama but not wanting to get involved. "You want to know what real strength looks like." Jason continued. "It's not a luxury car or an expensive suit. It's waking up every day and fighting for your family when the whole world seems designed to keep you down. That woman you just humiliated has more courage in her exhausted smile than you'll ever have in your entire privileged existence." Sarah felt tears sliding down her cheeks now, but they weren't tears of shame anymore. Someone saw her. Someone understood. Emma squeezed her mother's hand, not fully comprehending the adult conversation, but sensing that the tide had turned in their favor. Marcus opened his mouth to respond, but Jason raised a hand to silence him. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize to this woman sincerely. Then you're going to help her load her groceries into her car. And you're going to think very carefully about the kind of person you want to be in this world." Marcus Caldwell's face went through a rapid series of expressions, from defiance to embarrassment to something resembling panic. He glanced at his expensive watch, a clear gesture meant to suggest he had important places to be and important people waiting for him. But Jason Statham remained unmoved, standing like an immovable force between Marcus and his vehicle. "This is ridiculous," Marcus muttered, but his voice had lost its earlier venom. "I'm not some kid you can lecture in a parking lot. I'm a senior executive at Prometheus Financial. Do you have any idea who I am?" Jason's laugh was short and humorless. "Frankly, I don't care if you're the president. Right now, you're just a man who needs to learn basic human decency. And clearly, nobody has bothered to teach you that lesson yet, so consider this your lucky day." Sarah found her voice finally, stepping forward slightly. "Really, it's okay. I don't want to cause any trouble. I can manage on my own. I always do." Her words were meant to de-escalate, to let everyone walk away without further conflict, but they carried an unintended sadness that made Jason's expression soften when he glanced at her. "With respect, it's not okay," Jason said gently. "You shouldn't have to manage everything alone, especially not when asking for simple human kindness." and this man needs to understand that his behavior has consequences. He turned back to Marcus, his voice hardening again. Your move. Apologize and help, or I make a phone call to every media outlet in the city about how Jason Statham witnessed Marcus Caldwell from Prometheus Financial verbally abusing a single mother in a parking lot. The threat was delivered calmly, but its impact was immediate. Marcus's face went pale. In the age of social media and viral videos, reputation destruction could happen in hours. His career, his social standing, everything he had built on the foundation of his family's money and his own ruthless ambition, could crumble from a single news story with the right celebrity name attached. You wouldn't, Marcus said, but there was no conviction in his words. Try me, Jason replied. I've got nothing to lose and a principle to defend. You've got everything to lose and a choice to make. Choose wisely. The standoff lasted several long seconds. Shoppers continued to watch from safe distances. A woman with her phone out had clearly been recording for the last minute, though no one had noticed it yet. Marcus looked at Sarah, really looked at her for the first time, and perhaps saw something in her tired eyes and protective stance over her daughter that penetrated his armor of privilege. I apologize, Marcus said stiffly, the words clearly costing him something. That was inappropriate. I was having a difficult morning, and I took it out on you unfairly. I shouldn't have said those things. Sarah nodded, accepting the apology, though she could hear how hollow it sounded. Thank you, she whispered, because her mother had raised her to be polite even to people who didn't deserve it. Jason wasn't satisfied. Now help her with the groceries. All of them. And while you're doing it, I want you to think about something. Think about how you'd feel if someone talked to your mother or sister or daughter that way. Think about how it feels to be on the receiving end of casual cruelty from someone who sees you as beneath them. Marcus moved toward Sarah's scattered groceries with all the enthusiasm of a man walking to his own execution. He picked up the cans of soup, handling them awkwardly as if manual labor was genuinely foreign to him. Emma watched with wide eyes as this mean man who had made her mommy cry now bent down to help, his expensive suit jacket riding up to reveal a designer belt that probably cost more than Sarah's monthly rent. Jason turned to Sarah. Are you okay? Do you need anything else? His voice had transformed completely, warm and concerned, the threatening edge gone now that it had served its purpose. Sarah shook her head, overwhelmed by the surreal nature of the situation. I'm fine. Thank you so much. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, Jason said simply. My mother taught me that standing up for people is never optional when you have the power to do so. Some lessons stick with you forever. Marcus finished loading the groceries, his movement mechanical and resentful. But as he placed the last bag in Sarah's trunk, something shifted in his expression. Shame, perhaps, or the beginning of self-awareness. He straightened up and looked at Sarah again. I really am sorry. What I said was cruel and unfair. You're clearly a good mother doing your best. The parking lot had become an impromptu theater, with several onlookers no longer pretending they weren't watching. The woman who had been recording approached cautiously, her phone still raised. Mr. Statham, I recorded what just happened. Would you like me to delete it or post it? I think people need to see this kind of thing, how we should treat each other. Jason considered for a moment, then looked at Sarah. That's not my decision to make. How do you feel about this? It's your story to tell or keep private. Sarah felt her face flush with fresh anxiety. The idea of her worst moment being broadcast to the world made her stomach turn. But she also thought about all the other single mothers out there, all the people struggling who faced daily humiliation from those who saw poverty as a personal failing. Maybe her embarrassment could serve a purpose larger than herself. I don't know, she said honestly, her voice trembling. I just want to get Emma home and forget this happened. Emma tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mommy, the nice movie man helped us. Can we thank him properly? The child's innocent question broke through the tension, reminding everyone that this conflict had unfolded in front of young eyes that would remember it long after the adults moved on with their lives. Jason knelt down to Emma's level, his expression gentle. You've got a smart, brave mom. You know that? You take care of her, okay? And remember this day when you grow up. Remember that standing up for people matters, and that being kind costs nothing but means everything. Emma nodded solemnly, then surprised everyone by wrapping her small arms around Jason's neck in an impulsive hug. Thank you for helping my mommy. She works very hard, and people are sometimes mean to her, but she's the best mommy in the whole world." The simple declaration hung in the air, and Sarah saw something crack in Marcus's carefully constructed facade. His eyes glistened with what might have been tears, and he turned away quickly, pretending to check his phone. Jason returned Emma's hug, then stood and faced Sarah again. "Listen, I know this has been overwhelming, but I want to give you something." He pulled out his wallet and extracted several bills. "No, please, let me finish," he said when Sarah immediately started to protest. "This isn't charity, and it's not pity. This is one person who had help when he needed it, passing that forward to someone else who deserves a break. Use it however you need. Take your daughter somewhere fun. Catch up on bills. I'll just breathe a little easier for a week or two. No strings attached." Sarah's pride warred with her practical needs. The money Jason offered represented weeks of carefully saved tips from the diner, money that could fix her car's check engine light or buy Emma new shoes that actually fit properly. But accepting felt like confirming Marcus's cruel assessment that she was just looking for handouts. Jason seemed to read her thoughts. There's no shame in accepting help when it's offered freely. Pride is fine, but it shouldn't stop you from taking care of your daughter. My mother refused help for years because she was too proud, too worried about what people would think. I watched her suffer unnecessarily because she couldn't see that accepting kindness wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. Sarah's resistance crumbled. She took the money with shaking hands, tears streaming freely now. "Thank you. I'll pay this forward someday when I'm in a better position. I promise." Marcus, who had been standing awkwardly nearby, suddenly spoke up. "Wait!" Everyone turned to look at him. He pulled out his own wallet, his movements jerky and uncertain. "I want to contribute too. Let me give you something. Please. I need to do something right after being so wrong." The transformation in Marcus was startling but seemed genuine. His earlier arrogance had dissolved into something raw and uncomfortable, like a man seeing himself clearly for the first time and not liking the reflection. He held out several crisp bills toward Sarah, his hand trembling slightly. "I don't expect forgiveness," Marcus continued, his voice thick with emotion. "But I want you to know that I see you now. Really see you. You're not invisible or beneath notice. You're a person, a mother, someone worthy of respect and kindness. I forgot that somewhere along the way, and I'm sorry." Sarah accepted his contribution as well, overwhelmed by the surreal turn her ordinary morning had taken. The woman with the phone lowered it finally, apparently deciding that some moments were too sacred to exploit for viral fame. Other shoppers began to disperse, sensing the drama had reached its natural conclusion. Jason put a hand on Marcus's shoulder, a gesture that seemed to surprise both men. "This is good, what you're doing right now. Growth happens in uncomfortable moments. Don't let this be a one-time thing. Let it change how you move through the world." 3 months passed after that morning in the parking lot, and the world continued spinning on its axis. But for 3 people, something fundamental had shifted in ways both small and profound. The incident had not been posted online, that woman with the phone having decided some stories were more powerful when allowed to ripple outward quietly rather than exploding into viral fame. But the impact of that encounter spread nonetheless, like stones dropped in still water. Sarah Mitchell found herself sitting in a small but clean office at Prometheus Financial, of all places. After using the money from Jason and Marcus to fix her car and catch up on overdue bills, she had received an unexpected phone call. Marcus Caldwell wanted to offer her a position in his company's administrative department, with full benefits and a salary that would allow her to work one job instead of juggling 3 part-time positions that barely kept her afloat. She had been skeptical at first, worried this was some kind of guilt-driven charity that would evaporate once Marcus's conscience settled. But the offer was legitimate, vetted through proper HR channels, with a formal job description and clear expectations. The work would be challenging but manageable, and it came with something Sarah hadn't had in years: stability. "I know you have every reason to be suspicious of this," Marcus said, sitting across from her in his office, which was decorated with the same expensive taste that had once seemed so intimidating. Now Sarah could see it for what it was, just furniture and art, devoid of any real meaning. "But I want you to understand something. That day in the parking lot, Jason Statham didn't just call out my bad behavior. He held up a mirror, and I hated what I saw reflected there." Sarah listened quietly, Emma's picture in her wallet a reminder of why she was here. Pride was fine, but her daughter deserved security and opportunity. If Marcus's redemption arc could provide that, she would set her personal feelings aside. I started therapy the next week, Marcus continued, a confession that seemed to cost him something. Turns out I've been carrying around a lot of anger and entitlement that had nothing to do with you or anyone else I've treated poorly over the years. My father raised me to see the world as a competition where empathy was weakness. I'm trying to unlearn that now. Why tell me this? Sarah asked. You could have just offered the job. Because I want you to know this isn't pity or a publicity stunt. I genuinely want to be better, and part of that means making amends where possible. You don't owe me forgiveness, but I hope we can work together professionally. You deserve this opportunity based on your qualifications, not because I feel guilty. Sarah accepted the position, and over the following weeks, she discovered Marcus had been sincere. He treated her with consistent respect, and when she made mistakes during her learning curve, he offered patient correction rather than criticism. She also noticed changes in how he interacted with other staff members, particularly those in service positions. The casual contempt was gone, replaced by something approaching genuine consideration. Meanwhile, Jason Statham had returned to his normal life of filming and promotional tours, but the incident stayed with him. During an interview on a late-night talk show, the host asked about his relationship with his mother and what she had taught him. Jason told a version of the parking lot story, changing details to protect Sarah's privacy, but maintaining the core message about standing up for vulnerable people. We all have power, Jason said to the camera, his expression serious despite the entertainment context. Maybe it's fame or money or just physical presence. But that power comes with responsibility. When you see injustice, even small everyday injustices, you have a choice. You can look away and tell yourself it's not your problem, or you can step in and remind everyone that we're supposed to take care of each other. The clip went viral, shared millions of times across social media platforms. It sparked conversations about class, privilege, and how society treats single parents, particularly mothers. Jason received thousands of messages from people sharing their own stories of struggle and humiliation, of being seen and unseen, of small kindnesses that had changed their trajectories. One evening, Jason's phone rang with an unfamiliar number. He answered cautiously, expecting another journalist or fan who had somehow gotten his contact information. Instead, he heard Sarah's voice, nervous but warm. Mr. Statham, I hope you don't mind that Marcus gave me your number. I wanted to thank you properly. Because of what you did that day, everything changed for us. I have a real job now with benefits and a future. Emma is in a better school. We moved to a safe apartment. And honestly, my faith in people was restored when I needed it most. Jason felt emotion tighten his throat. You don't need to thank me. You were already strong and capable. You were already doing everything right. I just made sure you got the respect you always deserved. It was more than that, Sarah insisted. You saw me as a person when I felt invisible. You reminded me that struggling doesn't mean failing. And you taught my daughter that good men exist, men who use their strength to protect rather than dominate. That lesson is priceless. They talked for nearly an hour, sharing stories about their mothers and the sacrifices single parents make daily. Jason learned that Sarah was studying for her real estate license at night, building toward a future where she could provide even more stability for Emma. Sarah learned that Jason still supported his mother generously and had established a scholarship fund for children of single parents. When Marcus heard about the conversation, he asked Jason to meet him for coffee during the actor's next visit to the city. They sat in a quiet cafe, two men from vastly different worlds who had been brought together by a moment of conflict that became a catalyst for growth. I want to do more, Marcus said, stirring his coffee absently. The therapy is helping me understand why I was the way I was, but understanding isn't enough. I want to create real change. I'm starting a company initiative to hire and support single parents, providing flexible schedules and childcare assistance. Sarah helped me design the program. Jason smiled. That's good work. Real redemption isn't about grand gestures. It's about consistent choice to be better than you were yesterday. Years later, Emma would remember that day in the parking lot as a moment everything changed. She would remember her mother's tears, a mean man who learned to be kind, and a movie star who proved that heroes existed outside of films. The memory would shape how she treated service workers, how she stood up for bullied classmates, how she moved through the world with awareness that everyone she met was fighting battles she couldn't see. The parking lot itself remained unchanged, still hosting the daily dramas of ordinary people navigating their lives. But 3 people carried forward the lessons learned there, ripples spreading outward in ways both measurable and invisible, proof that a single moment of courage could reshape multiple futures and remind everyone involved that respect, kindness, and human dignity were never optional extras in a decent life. They were the foundation upon which everything meaningful was built.